Okay, welcome geometers. I'm going to just take you pretty quickly through the Polygon Transformations practice page. The purpose of this is just to show you the four basic transformations that we want you to use in order to construct a variety of different polygons. And so I'm going to just take you through each of those using this line segment AB. Okay, so we're going to start off. We have to double the length of segment AB using dilation. Dilation is when you expand or contract something by a scale factor, so making it twice as big, half as big, etc. And so we're going to use a dilation. If you look below here, there's some instruction buttons. If I click on that, you'll see a list of detailed instructions, and you will find with quite a few of these transformations that there's a couple of different options for how you mark a ratio or an angle, and you'll see as we go through each of them. And so you can read these as you go, and I'll make reference to them as well. Okay, so I'm using the arrow key. We've been asked to double the length of segment AB, and we have to label it AC. And so what that means is we are taking the segment and we're expanding its length through B in the direction from A to B. And so what you have to do is you either have to mark two segments, a dilation ratio, or what we can do is skip this if we've got a fixed ratio. In this case, we have got a fixed ratio. We've been told to double the length, and so that's a fixed ratio of 2 to 1. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off and mark the center of dilation, and I'm going to mark the center of dilation by double-clicking point A. Then what I'm going to do is to select the object, and so the object that I want to dilate is segment AB, so I've selected that object. I'm then going to go to the transform menu, and what I'm going to do is dilate. This box will pop up. The marked ratio is, of course, if you had used a couple of segments, that was what I referenced in the first one. I'm going to use a fixed ratio. The scale factor is going to be 2 to 1, and you can see it projects out to where the point's going to be. I'm going to click dilate, and then what I want to do is label that point. You'll see it's automatically marked as linked to the original point. I'm going to just double click that and rename it C as per the instruction to label the segment AC. Okay, and so that is the dilation of segment AB. We're now going to move on and we're going to rotate segment AB. So what we're looking to do is just rotate segment AB, not the entire thing, by 90 degrees from A. And so again, if we go over here, rotation, there's two ways to do rotation, much like they were with dilation. You do need a center of rotation. You can either have a fixed angle of rotation like we do over here, or you can mark a specific angle. So I'll very quickly show you how it is that you could mark an angle. So if you wanted to rotate something by a specific angle, not a fixed angle, then what you can do is you can select, if this were my angle of rotation, and so if I wanted to rotate using angle C, I wanted something to rotate whatever this measure is over here. Of course, I could measure it, but if we want the exact, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the segment, and then I'm going to select the vertex, and then the next segment. And from the transform menu, one of the options is to mark the angle, and notice those little segments that appear that shows you that it's going to rotate in this direction, a measure of angle C. And so that's what the instruction is talking about, marking the rotation angle. In this particular case, we don't need to mark the angle because we've been given a specific value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to double click A because I want to mark that as the center of rotation. I'm then going to select segment AB, and then I'm going to transform that by rotating, and I'm rotating 90 degrees. If this said 180, of course, then I could just type in a different angle. Notice also the effect of rotating a negative angle. A negative angle is going to go in a clockwise direction, and a positive angle is going to go in a counterclockwise direction. So that my instruction was to rotate by 90 degrees from point A. I'm going to go ahead and rotate, and then I'm going to label that, and I'm just going to change that label to B prime, and so that is consistent with the instructions. Okay, so I've now completed my rotation of segment AB, and it's produced segment AB prime. The next step in the practice page is to reflect segment AB prime, in other words this segment over here, over segment AB. And so if you want to reflect something, you need to mark the line of reflection, and so I'm reflecting over segment AB. So if I double click the segment, that marks it as the line of reflection. I then need to select what it is that I want to reflect, go to the transform menu and click reflect, and as you can see it's reflected the line segment over segment AB. So that's like a mirror image of it. I'm going to go ahead and label this point over here. That is in fact B double prime because it is the reflection of B prime. And then the last thing we're going to do is to translate segment B prime B, and we're going to translate that along segment AC. And so again, we've got detailed instructions for translation. For translation, you can translation involves sliding something left, right, up, or down. And what we can do is we can translate something either with a fixed set of coordinates, which means move 3 right and 2 up, for instance, or what we can do is we can move it a specific distance and a specific direction, and we call that a vector. So I'm going to do a vector translation in this case. What I want to do is slide segment B prime, B double prime along AC so that it's in this position over here. There's other ways we could do this as well, but I just want to show you using a translation. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select point A, I'm going to then select point C in order. I then go to the transform, and my option is to mark a vector, and pay attention as I click this to points A and C, and you'll see some dots move across which indicate the magnitude and the direction of the translation. Okay, and so hopefully you notice those little yellow dots going from A to C. I now need to select segment B prime, B double prime. I'm going to go to the transform menu, I'm going to click translate, and it's going to slide that segment along AC, the distance of AC, and that's going to give us actually the transformed figure that I want. What you're going to be asked to do now is to use these instructions and these 4 different types of transformation. Move along each of the tabs on the bottom of the page and try to construct an equilateral triangle using segment AB combined only with rotations. And then we'll have translation constructions, reflection constructions, dilation constructions, and lastly some combinations which should give you some good challenges.